Speaking of entirely average,
Yeah.
continuing our cavalcade of random 80s comedy.
Yes. Yeah. We decided to watch Summer Rental, which is the first John Candy's first starring role in a movie. He'd been previously been in other movies, but he was usually the sidekick, like Splash, uh, or he was like a minor character like in Blues Brothers or Vacation. Um, what was that other Tom Hanks movie he was in? I can't remember.
Was it
Um,
was it the one like you was it the house or the money pit?
no, it wasn't the Money Pit. It was I want to say it was like they were in like the Peace Corps.
Oh, yeah, I don't know that one.
Yeah. Oh, and Stripes. He was also
Okay.
yeah, he was in Stripes. But
Uh,
yeah, so this
Now,
yeah.
Daniel, it occurs to me, we live in a sad world where unfortunately John Candy died 30 years ago, and there are probably some people out there who don't know who he is.
Yes. Yeah. Um
Part of the big three of overweight 80s and 90s comedians who died before their time between Belushi, him, and Chris Farley.
really, yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's why there was a joke in Family or in King of the Hill where Bobby said, "Dad, I'm not going to do drugs. My goal is to be the first fat comedian to break the 40 barrier."
Well, Candy made it to I think 42 or 43.
But
But yeah, yeah.
so he started off on SCTV, uh, and his general. I think he reminds a lot of people of their dad. In fact, he kind of reminds me of my dad. He's like the
Yeah.
affable, kind of chunky guy who like has a underlying anger that can come out at times.
Yeah, yeah. That's a good way of describing them. Yeah,
Like he is a lot of middle America's dad.
yeah,
You know, like mildly frustrated, working hard, has to come home and deal with crap.
yeah,
Yeah. Which is actually where this movie starts. You get a sense of the kind of stuff he deals with, like his wife swapping out his coffee and
hmm
for what did she get?
herbal tea.
Herbal
Yeah,
tea because it's it's your heart rate. His kid has to make breakfast, so the kid makes two hard-boiled eggs, and one hard-boiled egg they didn't dip in the water, and the other one was actually raw, so it got all over the inside of his car.
yeah,
Then he gets to work as an air traffic controller, and I believe that was kind of a rip from the headlines type thing because I think that was around like close to the time when Ronald Reagan fired all of the air traffic controllers in the country.
yeah. It was somewhere around in there. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Because they went on strike, and
And
they weren't allowed to go on strike.
it's like, okay, you have just handed in your resignations.
Yeah, pretty much. Uh,
Still a high stress job, and you
mm,
and basically John is sentenced to vacation.
mhm.
Like he's on a month long sabbatical, and they have this place down in Florida that he
Yeah.
is sent to rent.
Yes. Yeah. I actually looked it up. They filmed it in and around St. Petersburg, Florida, which is it's a kind of an island town north of Tampa. Just for a
Okay.
little reference there. Um, yeah, so they rent this beach house, and it's beautiful. It's gorgeous. It's really great. They got this great view of the water and everything, and then he goes out and his kids are playing out on the beach, and then he just sits down in the lounge chair and then falls asleep, and he gets sunburned all over his arms and
Well,
his face.
yeah. Like the comedy of this story comes from if you've ever been on any sort of family vacation
Mhm.
for any length of time, you know all the things that can go wrong.
Yeah,
Like really, the only thing they didn't do here was give him car troubles.
yeah, that's true. Yeah,
So it's kind of vacation, but situated entirely in one town in Florida.
yeah, yeah, and it's what was funny is they're in their the beach house, and then they hear people at the door, and they're like, oh, what's, there are people trying to break into the house, and of course they bring their dog with them. The dog
This
is just,
useless ass dog.
yeah, just completely useless, just laying on the floor like. "Arr, arr." And then they find out there's this other family there, and he said, and they get in an argument. He's like, "No, I rented this house out. This is 415 Beach Road. No, this is 415 Beach Lane."
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, so the beautiful house with the balcony. Yeah, now it's a right on the beach, right on the public access to the beach path.
yeah,
Uh, Crap hole.
yeah.
Uh,
With people looking in their windows, looking at them as they're eating breakfast.
yeah. Um, and so it's like the comedy in this is extremely relatable. I could even find some people who would like watch the movie for 20 minutes and then turn it off because it's too real to some real life experience they had that they're still bitter about.
Yeah, yeah, got some real life trauma that they haven't quite worked through yet.
But and also this thing was apparently shot over the course of 2 months.
Mm.
And Candy even said in a interview the next year, according to Wikipedia, that yeah, we shot the thing too fast.
Which kind of explains the ending.
Yeah, because it is such a classic '80s comedy because it's like
Mm.
you've got the elements with him interacting with the family and all their weirdness.
Yeah.
Like what's funny is that I guess you don't need a cell phone for the daughter to check out because she had these battery powered headphones slash cassette tape drives, which that is a neat invention that I didn't know if I didn't know existed.
Yeah, I think my family, we might have had one of those at one point. Never worked.
Well, movie magic, I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, she didn't need a cell phone to disassociate from the world around her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and of course, like he keeps having these run-ins with the guy who wins the sailing regatta every single year.
Yeah. Yeah, and he's played by Richard Crenna, who most people will remember from the Rambo movies. Uh, yeah, he's this real, and I think everybody at some point in their lives has met a guy like that who's just totally arrogant
Mhm.
and just total jerk, and you can't stand them. Just they think they think the world belongs to them, and it's just like,
Right. And so, and then Candy also hurt his leg partway through it, so he ends up kind of stuck for a long time.
yeah,
And uh, so other standouts. So like I would say, this movie isn't one that you necessarily have to like go plot beat by plot beat.
yeah,
So we can just talk about like a couple of things that are interesting.
yeah,
I had never seen Rip Torn as anything but an old man before.
yeah,
Like I kept thinking his voice sounded familiar.
yeah.
It wasn't. It didn't help that he was doing like a bad pirate accent the whole time because he's the shyster who runs the local bar slash restaurant. Like
Yeah, yeah, like, oh, we got a nice breaded grouper.
yeah, oh yeah, oh the captain's catch of the day. Um, it's grouper and a fine breadcrumb. With just a hint of Dijon and
Yeah,
fresh caught. And, Manuel, 5 of the captain's catch.
this
And
is
Manuel
gross.
gets out 5 boxes of fish sticks.
Yeah. Jeez. And he's also got the hook hand too. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, and you just got to like a lot of humor like that where it's just like, oh, yep, what can go wrong in this vacation? Yep, that would go wrong. Yep, that would go wrong. Yep, that would go wrong.
Yeah. the got the next door neighbor with the fake boobs.
Yeah, like she was just obsessed with like, do these look right?
Yeah.
And her husband's like, oh my God, just tell her she's pretty so she can go home.
Yeah. Man.
But I would say that this movie relies heavily on John Candy to carry it,
Yeah. Yeah.
which I mean makes some sense as a vehicle for his comedy.
Mm. Yeah, most of the comedies, yeah, where he's in the starring role or at the very least one of the leads. Yeah, that's usually the case.
Yeah, like the only one I can think of that I've seen that actually had a good storyline was Uncle Buck,
Hmm.
which is a much better movie than this. But
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. Like, I noticed, like, when he collaborated with John Hughes,
mhm.
like it always worked. Like like John Hughes seemed to understand Candy, like how to utilize him, how how to write his characters. I mean, you saw that, like, like with Uncle Buck and Planes, Trains, and Automobiles,
Mhm.
and the Great. I don't, yeah, I don't know if you ever saw The Great Outdoors.
I don't know if I have.
That was him and with Dan Aykroyd.
I don't think I ever did.
That's a pretty funny movie. Yeah. Yeah, Aykroyd plays his brother-in-law, and he's kind of like Richard Crenna's character in this movie.
Okay,
Very similar. Yeah.
but yeah, so you can catch this on Paramount Plus. I'd say it's a totally fine movie to just turn on. Um, you kind of man, so I have this deep childhood affection for John Candy just because he was in a bunch of
Mm.
stuff I saw.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
But as an adult, I kind of have to admit that like most of the things he was in were not worthy of his talents.
Yeah.
And again, he just has that charisma where he reminds you of so many people you met. Like even in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, it's like, okay, you're the guy who is trying so hard to be friendly that you just wrap around the bend and become annoying.
Yeah. Yeah.
In this case, it's the guy who's trying so hard to just keep it together, and he just keeps like he flies off the handle at the most comedically inopportune moments.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the whole thing is just like, he's a burnout air traffic controller, so he has to go on vacation. Well, then he goes on the most stressful vacation in the
Yeah,
world, and ever,
yeah. So we had considered doing Uncle Buck, and I kind of swerved and chose this one because I said, I've seen Uncle Buck. Let's see what else there is to offer.
Mm,
And I don't regret saying this because there are a couple of lines that are still occurring to me a week later,
yeah.
and a couple of scenarios. So it's like there's some good gags here.
Yeah, there are. Yeah. 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 Uh,
I That is probably the most attention that Summer Rental has received from any YouTube program in 2024. So there you go.
yeah, there you go. Yeah.